The giant eye pulsed with a rhythmic, cold light, casting long, jagged shadows against the shimmering portal. Sophia's boots scraped against the metal floor as she retreated, her breath hitching in her throat. Ahmed stepped forward, hand gripping the hilt of his pack, eyes locked onto the swirling vortex. "Fear is just a signal," he said, his voice steady against the low, mechanical hum of the gateway. "It tells us we are alive, not that we should stop." Without warning, the portal surged. A violent gravitational pull yanked them off their feet, dragging them into the light. They tumbled through a tunnel of distorted, blinding colors, spinning until the air felt thick as liquid. Gravity snapped back with a jarring force. They landed hard on a surface that felt like solid, unyielding glass. Above them, the sky was a shifting canvas of glowing equations and floating geometric shapes. "Welcome to the trial of wisdom. Strength is a burden here. Only logic carries weight." Sophia scrambled to her feet, her gaze darting across the horizon. 3 massive stone doors materialized from the glass floor, each vibrating with a low, resonant frequency. The first was etched with the word honesty, the second, speed, and the third, thought. Sophia pointed immediately to the second archway, her hand trembling. "Speed! If we move fast, we can outrun whatever comes next." She took a step toward the stone, but the ground beneath her feet flared with a warning light. Ahmed shook his head, pacing in front of the archways while tracing the carvings with his fingers. His brow furrowed as he analyzed the geometry of the symbols. "Impulse is a trap," he muttered, his voice tight. He turned to the others, his eyes searching. "What is the root of every solution?" Yahya stepped forward, toward the third portal. "Thought," he whispered. As he gripped the stone, the door groaned open. The room dissolved into a thick, swirling mist of white light that clung to their skin like damp vapor. As they stepped into the center, the walls pulsed, and a riddle manifested in glowing, jagged embers. "I walk without feet. I weep without eyes. What am I?" Sophia paced the perimeter, her eyes darting between the symbols that drifted like smoke through the air. She reached out, but the light recoiled from her touch. "A river?" she suggested, her voice echoing too loudly in the confined space. Ahmed shook his head, pointing upward to the ceiling. "Think of the sky," he urged, his voice strained as the floor beneath them began to hum with a low, rhythmic vibration. The symbols accelerated, spinning into a blur of golden geometry that threatened to overwhelm their senses. Yahya stood still, watching the light condense. "It is the cloud," he whispered. "It travels across the sky without legs and sheds rain like tears." The moment the words left his lips, the room erupted. A blinding golden glow surged from the floor, swallowing the mist and turning the air into a searing electric heat. A circular platform rose from the center of the floor, holding a pulsating crystal shard that burned with a steady, intense light. The golden glow intensified, but the stability of the room vanished instantly. A sharp, high-pitched sound pierced the air as the glass floor beneath them began to crack. Spiderweb fractures raced outward, turning the solid surface into a jagged puzzle of floating debris. The room started to disintegrate into a swirling, bottomless void. "Yahya, now!" Ahmed shouted, his voice barely audible over the roar of the collapsing dimension. He pointed to the platform, which was already tilting dangerously. Yahya did not hesitate. He sprinted across the crumbling tiles, his feet barely finding purchase on the shifting shards. The void pulled at his limbs, a cold, gravitational hunger dragging him toward the dark abyss. He lunged forward, his fingers closing around the crystal. The world twisted violently, folding in on itself with a sound like tearing metal. A deafening crack echoed through the void, and the reality of the room shattered. They were ejected with sudden, crushing force, slamming onto the solid ground of the city outskirts. The giant eye vanished, leaving only the ringing silence. They stood in the silence of the outskirts, lungs burning as they pulled in the cool, still air. Yahya looked down at his hand. The crystal shard pulsed with a soft, rhythmic light, the only remnant of the void. For a heartbeat, there was peace. Then, the ground beneath their boots betrayed them. A low, guttural rumble vibrated through the earth, deep and bone-shaking. Ahmed dropped into a crouch, his eyes scanning the horizon. The sky was changing. A deep, ominous orange bled into the clouds, devouring the twilight. Miles away, the earth split open. A dormant volcano, silent for centuries, tore itself apart, hurling molten rock and thick, choking ash into the atmosphere. Ahmed said, "The trial is not over. It is just getting hotter."